welcome everyone to today's presentation on WA Mental Health Week in 2021. This year we're really focusing on children's mental health and how to understand and support children's mental health as we go. My name's Claire. I work as a counsellor at Access Wellbeing Service.
And my name's Laura and I'm a psychologist at Access Wellbeing Services.
We really want to encourage you guys to participate with us as we have this conversation. So feel free to type in any responses you might have or anything to add, because I'm sure you all have, I guess, a wealth of knowledge to share with everyone. Any questions, and we'll endeavour to answer it as we go. If there's any questions left over, we'll answer them all at the end too. So please type on in. We're just going to head to the slides and get started. So before we go much further, I'd like to acknowledge the First Nations people of the land on which we present today and pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Today, we're going to explore what is children's mental health, what are the warning signs or what's to look for when it comes to children's mental health, perhaps improving or even deteriorating, how we might be able to respond when we're concerned about our children's mental health or a young person's mental health, and where to get support. It's really important to know that you're not alone. We're here to support you, as are other agencies, and we'll certainly outline those towards the end. So if you guys want to type in any answers you might have about how you might define children's ability to manage their mental health, but Laura, I guess, how might we say it?
I guess I would define it as a child's ability to cope and manage through adversity, so that resilience that children have, and being able to, I guess, identify when they need help and support as well, not feeling like they always need to manage everything on their own, but having that ability to speak about their emotions and talk openly to their parents, their teachers or friends about what's going on for them, and asking for that help and support.
Yeah, it's important for them to know that they're not alone.
That's right.
Isn't it? We talk a lot about their bounce back, their ability to bounce back from things. I think that's the language a lot of children use as well when it comes to resilience. Because we might say that children's mental health can be defined as the child's ability to meet challenges. Challenges will come and go, as we know as adults, but they certainly do start from a very young age. How to express their emotions in response to those experiences. As they develop and learn, they might be expressing those emotions differently. How they might be able to regulate their emotions. So when we're talking about regulating emotions, it's about, I guess, being able to soothe themselves if their emotions are becoming heightened or overwhelming. How to ask for help, like I said, Laura. How to explore their environment in a really safe way. How to form secure relationships. I know how many times we often hear from parents and caregivers that they're concerned about their child's relationships with others and relationships with them. Secure relationships can be a real cornerstone to children's mental health, and that is something that we will be, I guess, exploring more in depth too. As I said, it's depending upon their developmental age as to and stage as to how that they can actually articulate and understand and respond. And we'll be going through those developmental stages shortly too. So what do you guys think, who the viewers think the children might need to have a healthy childhood? What do you reckon, Laura?
I think it's all about having that secure attachment to caregivers, to their friends, being able to ask for support and being provided that, and I guess their basic needs being met.
Yeah, it's really difficult without a full belly and a safe kind of house to live in to have a healthy childhood. That connection that we talked about is really important. Feeling loved, warmly regarded, can really facilitate a young person to have a healthy experience of their childhood. Consistency and reliability is important. The more a young person can predict what's going to happen next, the more secure and healthy they feel within themselves. Also, those kind of opportunities for learning, for practicing skills can be really important. And like I said, those basic needs, food, shelter, relationships. But I mean, as we all know, when our kids haven't slept very well and our young people are tired, they're less likely to feel okay within themselves. So sleep is very important. I know it's very important for me.
Yes.
I also find it hard to regulate my emotions when I don't have as much sleep. I think all of these things are not just relevant to children's healthy childhood, but to us feeling well within ourselves. But it also comes down to safety. If a child is feeling unsafe, then they're less likely to experience their childhood as healthy. And I guess what you can see in front of us is a lot of toys that we might use to help children engage in counselling. Play is so important. Play is their first language in being able to describe what's going on for them. They might enact how they're feeling and what's happening for them through play. Given the opportunity to play helps them practice those skills as well. So play is exceptionally important for children, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what do you guys reckon? What would happen if children don't have a healthy childhood? What do you reckon?
I guess they're unable to cope with the challenges in life, really, and life will always come with a lot of challenges, and having the mechanisms and the coping strategies to deal with those. And if children don't have a healthy childhood and don't have that basis of secure attachment and security, it's very hard then to navigate through life.
Yeah, so you might find it more difficult to bounce back.
That's right.
When a challenge happens,
right.
if they don't experience a healthy childhood. Yeah, because I think, if they're not feeling safe, they don't have the opportunity to learn and to be warmly regarded, they might be fearful, scared, mistrusting, like there haven't been safe relationships in their life. Obviously tired, they're not sleeping very well, they're not eating very well, but also not perhaps engaging in school, and that might come back down to the mistrusting and the fear perhaps of being able to manage their own emotions, but also the emotions of others, being able to read them. We, understand young people based on, I guess, working with them, but also there's been a lot of studies that describe for us what young people are thinking, how they're managing their experience of the world. And a really important one is the Young Minds Matter survey. This is a longitudinal study that is quantitative, so it gives us some statistics, and also qualitative, so it tells the story of the mental health of young children and adolescents. The 2015 study was the second one Australian-wide on the study of the prevalence of mental health in young children and how support services have helped to reduce the harm and the impact of their mental health and support them to develop those skills as well. So what do we know that they've told us is that there has been some changes in those trends. Really early on, the first study in 1998, it actually showed more of a prevalence of an experience of what's ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and now it's looking like this. So ADHD is still found to be quite high, but the experience of anxiety and depression is rising, and that's a real worry. It's really great that we do have this information, because now we know how to respond to that. And I'm sure that there's a few people out here and with us today that might have some idea about why that is, why anxiety and depression might increase. Why do you think, Laura?
I guess especially more recently with the pandemic, that creates a lot of anxiety for people, especially from a child's perspective as well. It's a really difficult time for them to cope with that uncertainty, and I guess not having a typical childhood.
Yeah, so we go back to the need for consistency and reliability and experience of COVID in our society. It creates a lot of loss, a lot of change. It's on the news all the time. Quite lucky here in WA that we were somewhat protected, but we can certainly feel for our young people, adolescents and families over in other parts of Australia and the world who've been really quite greatly impacted by this. Yeah. this obviously was conducted in 2015, so these results were pre-COVID. And I think a lot of parents that I've spoken to have reflected on the increase in social media may have increased the experience of anxiety and depression, and being online a lot might help too. Kind of explain why it is the way it is. But ultimately, what this study has told us is that poor childhood mental health impacts a young person's ability to learn and socialise. So we really need to prioritise wrapping around our young people to manage their experience of their emotions, because it can have long-term issues. So what can impact a child's mental health? We talked a little bit about COVID and change.
And change, yeah. And just the uncertainty in
Yeah.
general. Yeah, I guess something that we see quite often in counselling can be, if there's a family breakdown, family separation, I guess increased pressure from school, from society, and quite high expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly as children get older, those expectations can rise.
Yeah.
Though it can start from quite young too, the need to perform, perhaps. Yeah. Any sort of major loss, I think we found, can impact a child's mental health. Could be as simple as a loss of a loved toy or a pet, down to a loss of relationship, friendship, or parental separation, like you said. Any change can be difficult to navigate, particularly if that young person doesn't have other areas of security, then and support. Adapting to that change can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
Like I said, school can be a little bit of a hotbed of relationships under a lot of pressure. You see them every day. It's a little bit like the workplace. It's 5 days a week. It's 8 hours a day. They have to go there whether they want to or not. So that can be challenging. It can also be a really safe place for kids.
That's right.
Like I said, those unrealistic expectations. Their peers can influence a child's mental health. So having really strong friendships, that strong connection, the warm regard can be helpful. But if they're feeling misunderstood by their peers, then that can be hard.
Yeah.
And siblings, whether you have them or don't, not having siblings can be difficult.
Yeah.
I'm imagining I'm one of 4.
Yeah.
Having many can also be a challenge as well. Yeah. And I think ultimately, if the parents are well, then the kids are going to be okay. So it's very important that as adults in a child's life or an adolescent's life, we look after our own mental health too, and we check in about how we're travelling, because if it's hard to help someone if we're not okay. I'm just going to hand over to Laura now. We're going to have a quick chat about how do we tell if a child's not doing okay.
Yeah. So we're just going to look at each developmental age and go through some of these warning signs. So starting with young children from 0 to 5 years, and just looking at some of those warning signs. So one sign could be persistent crying. So obviously developmentally it's quite common for children of this young age to be developing their temperament and to become quite upset. But I guess if this is happening more and more and it's quite persistent, that's when it would be a concern. So anger outbursts and not being able to regulate their emotions, poor eye contact, food refusal, toileting changes or regressive behaviours. So when we're talking about regressive behaviours, we're talking about, I guess, developmentally regressing. So instead of going forward with their development, actually going backwards. So for example, a 5-year-old or 4-year-old that may have been able to dress themselves, then struggling to do that.
I guess you'd imagine though for this age group that like tantrums are quite normal.
Yes, that's right.
When would we go from it being like normal tantruming or refusing to do what I'm being told, like a 4-year-old, to it actually being, a concern?
And I guess when it's outside the scope of what would developmentally be appropriate. Yeah.
So perhaps if it's ongoing and persistent.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if we just move to the next developmental age, and that's middle-aged children. So that's children from 6 to 12 years. So at this time, children are usually in school full-time, usually in the primary school years, maybe already starting to go into high school or preparing to go to high school. So one warning sign could be avoidance. So Claire, what do you notice in children that you see that avoidance? What behaviours do you notice?
I think particularly the young people who are normally quite chatty and quite engaged. I know when, I guess my children were quite young, their story would go for quite a long time. And if their story was just really short or brief, and they weren't necessarily wanting to talk to me about what was going on, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
So it'd be different for them.
Yeah. And avoidance could look like, I guess, stopping engaging in things that, these children used to enjoy. It could be not playing sport anymore, or community groups that they used to enjoy, not wanting to do those anymore. School refusal again, so not wanting to attend school. Over or under eating as well. So I guess, again, paying respects to their developmental age and their needs. Stomach aches and headaches. So often it'll be quite hard for children to verbalise that mentally they're not doing very well. They might actually experience the physical symptoms. For anxiety, for example, a lot of children that come to counselling that have anxiety will say that they're having constant headaches or stomach aches. So fatigue, so feeling tired all the time outside of the scope of, I guess, general kind of tiredness. Anger outbursts, so getting quite upset, being unable to regulate difficult emotions such as anger. Persistent sadness, so I guess not just kind of those general kind of ups and downs, but if a child is persistently sad and getting upset quite often. So people-pleasing tendencies as well, so that's something to watch out for. And what people-pleasing tendencies do you see? Actually, in children that are not coping.
I worry quite a bit about that sort of people-pleasing behaviour, wanting to make sure that the adults are all okay.
Yes.
That notion that if the adults are okay, then I'm okay.
Yes.
Often in counselling, I guess if I have a young person at this age group and they want to keep handing me things, making sure I'm okay, or they might intentionally lose the game just so they're not sure about how I'm going to feel if I lose.
Yes.
Because maybe other adults in their life aren't able to manage their own frustrations.
Yes.
So they want to make sure that I'm not going to lose my cool with them. So the people pleasing can be, it can look great, like look like empathic behaviour, and parents are often like, oh, they're lovely, they care about everyone.
Yeah.
They're also generous and they give their last dollar away.
Yes.
Or 50 cents at this age.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a bit of a warning sign.
Yeah. So now if we look at early teenage children, so 13 to 15 years, there's a lot of changes that are going on developmentally at this age. And children are often starting to become quite independent. They're usually in high school at this age. And developmentally, there's a lot of changes that are going on, and their brain is developing.
So many changes, physically, emotionally, within their brain.
Yeah. So again, another warning sign can be avoidance. So especially in terms of their social groups, so avoiding seeing their friends, spending, I guess, a large amount of time on their own, avoiding activities that they used to really enjoy. School refusal as well is a big one, and school can be a challenging time for children at this age as well, because they're well into their high school years. Over or under eating, so again, developmentally, it's quite normal for children of this age to maybe eat more to adjust to the new stage of development. But I guess if it's quite excessive eating or not eating enough as well is a really big concern.
Or even like hoarding food.
Hoarding food,
So it's squirreling it away and eating it in secret, perhaps. Or we might find other kind of food resistant behaviours, getting quite picky with what they want to eat.
So fatigue again, tiredness, anger outbursts, and that could be directed towards parents, teachers, other students, friends. persistent sadness, so yeah, becoming quite upset, and I guess those lows being quite low. Obviously with the teenage brain, their mood will go up and down with that rush of hormones, but I guess if you're seeing persistently that your child is upset and sad and quite hopeless, I guess. Self-harming behaviours, so that's something that we do see more commonly now in counselling, and children are engaging in self-harming behaviours even earlier now. And self-harming behaviours can include stabbing, cutting,
Skin picking,
yeah,
pulling their hair or their eyelashes.
Yeah, so it can come in many different forms, so fixation, so that can be kind of quite obsessive behaviours that are driven by compulsive thoughts. So obsessively checking social media, checking their phone, feeling that they can't actually cope without engaging in some of these behaviours.
But also if they, had a challenge that they experienced or an experience a couple of weeks ago and they're still going on about it, they're still kind of obsessing over what had happened and how to kind of move on from that, and not actually moving forward. That sort of obsessive sort of behaviours is a worry, and it's fairly obvious that one. The kind of the mood changes can be a little bit more difficult. Is this normal, or is this actually something to worry about?
And I guess that rumination as well on thoughts and on a specific event as well, definitely.
So rumination being like that circular thinking
over
and over the same thing.
So getting quite stuck on their thoughts and not being able to, I guess, kind of move forward. Okay. So now if we move on to the older teenagers, so this age range is 16 to 18 years. So again, there's a lot of changes that are going on just in these 2 years of life. Children are starting to become quite independent. Some children may be leaving school, starting university, starting work, moving out of home even. So a lot of changes at this time, which can be difficult to navigate as well. So again, another warning sign of avoidance. So as you can hear, that's quite common in all the developmental ages, that avoiding certain situations, avoiding things they used to enjoy, and I guess social disengagement as well is a real warning sign at this age. So school refusal, so refusing to go to school, not wanting to attend. Again, the over or under eating, I guess this will look quite similar for the younger teenagers as well.
And this being across all developmental stages, I think it's important to kind of note that the only two things we can control is what we put in and what we put out. So food is quite a common way of coping, isn't it?
Fatigue again, so I guess the young person feeling quite tired beyond, I guess, that usual kind of tiredness. So anger outbursts and the sadness as well, so not being able to regulate their emotions, and I guess being able to cope with changes. So self-harming behaviours as well, which we spoke a little bit about. That's something that is becoming more and more common as well. And that can look quite different as well for older teenagers. So this could be engaging in excessive drinking, drug taking.
Or putting themselves kind of in risky situations. Which I think is the next point. Anyway.
And again, the fixation, so obsessing over certain things that have happened or things that didn't happen, and not being able to, I guess, kind of process and move forward.
I don't know how many times you've done it yourself, but I know I often, replay over something that has happened and wish I'd done it differently or said it differently and wished for a different sort of outcome. And playing it over and over in my mind can actually stop me from being, truly present and just coping with it, putting it aside and moving on.
And sort of suicidal ideation as well. So having, I guess, thoughts of suicide and those thoughts hanging around for long periods of time as well is, of course, quite concerning if you're hearing that from your teenager. And that's definitely a time to reach out for help and support if your teenager is saying that they're not wanting to be here anymore, that they're a nuisance, and they're quite hopeless and helpless. Sorry.
Anytime someone talks about or is curious around, suicide and or they know of someone, and they might not necessarily speak about themselves. They might say my friend or someone I know.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
whenever this topic comes up, it's about we need to really pause and
Yes.
attend to this warning sign.
Yes. Definitely. And risk-taking behaviours as well. So yeah, this could include excessive drinking, experimenting with drugs, drink driving, engaging in unsafe sexual practices as well.
Because at this age, they've only really just got their license as well.
Yeah.
So there's a whole heap of changes and learnings that they're doing as well. What we do know about the adolescent brain is that it's actually consolidating and shedding the information and the pathways that it doesn't need, and consolidating the ones that they do. So they're not necessarily able to assess for risk very well either.
Yeah.
So somewhat normal risk-taking behaviours,
Yeah.
but when it's persistent
Yeah.
and when it's quite high and worrying, we're going to have to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess if there's a lot of quite difficult consequences as well as a result of that risk-taking behaviours.
And I guess that's the biggest worry, isn't it? That what our child and young person chooses to do now might affect them later on in life. We want them to survive. We want them to be whole and happy and healthy. Yet we also know that this is part of what they need to do.
Yeah. Okay, and the last developmental stage we're going to look at in terms of the warning signs are young adults. And some of you may wonder why we included this age range, because typically you wouldn't think of a young adult between the ages of 19 and 25 as a child. But what the research is actually showing is that children and young people are living at home for longer now. So it's not uncommon for young people to still be living at home in their early to mid to even late 20s now. Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, a lot of the warning signs are quite similar. So avoidance. So yeah, maybe it's avoiding getting into the workforce, for example, avoiding, I guess, taking the next step in their life, and maybe clinging on to their parents for that security and that comfort. Yeah. And I guess avoiding those adult responsibilities, which we unfortunately can't avoid forever. No. Over and under eating again is another warning sign. Fatigue, the anger outbursts as well, unable to regulate their emotions, and getting, I guess, quite angry and frustrated at other people as well, because at this age as well, they should be able to regulate their emotions, have those mechanisms to deal with those difficult emotions. So if they're not able to do that at this age, that is quite concerning.
And they should also have the language.
That's
shouldn't
right.
they? So it's quite normal to expect under 12 to not be able to verbalize how they're feeling. But at this age, their brain is almost completely developed.
That's right.
It's only after about 25, 28 that we start losing our brain cells again. So they're at their peak.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fixation again as well, kind of those ruminating thoughts, circular thinking, not being able to, I guess, keep going and accept kind of what has happened, and as Claire said, not being kind of in the present moment. Yeah. Again, self-harming behaviours, that could look like, again, excessive drinking, drug use, cutting, burning, skin picking, and of course suicidal ideation. So any thoughts of suicide, any discussion about, I guess, not wanting to be here anymore and feeling like a burden. And I guess what's more troubling is for young people at this age range, they're more independent. It's easier to access means, so it's even more of a concern, really. Yeah.
Well, that's right. They're adults and they're fully responsible for their choices now.
That's right.
As a parent or a carer of a young person in this age, it can be a really tricky kind of spot to be.
It is. Yeah. Definitely. And again, the risk-taking behaviours, and that could look like excessive drinking, drug taking, gambling as well, and just having, I guess, kind of more freedom and maybe not making those correct decisions for themselves.
Yeah, gambling's a really good point actually, because we see a lot of advertising. It's definitely very present. About it's easy for young people to gamble. It's often
very accessible.
Yeah, the way that they socialise as well.
That's right.
They might have a team betting system or try to compare how they went with their footy tipping or whatever gambling as well. And also this age they've got their own funds.
That's right.
So they
have
spend
that freedom
the way that they want to. So but gambling can lead to very kind of long-term harm to themselves and people around them. not allowing them to be their best self.
So some reasons why parents might engage their children in counselling. So Claire, what do you think are some reasons? What do a lot of parents come to you with concerns about their children?
But generally, it's because kids aren't doing what they want them to do.
Okay.
And the parents might be feeling a bit frustrated. And so they want someone to talk to them to find out, well, why aren't you doing what you normally would do? But also, I think parental separation is quite a large one.
Yes.
A lot of relationships don't make it. I think we're over 50% now in the statistics. So parental separation can impact children of all ages. Even, you know, counselling older adolescents impacted by their parent separation. Because it's needing them to redefine who they know themselves to be and how they're going to respond to their parents as well.
And I guess inability to cope with any changes, whether it be parental separation or even starting high school now, is really difficult because children are starting high school earlier now.
And some of them are quite young.
So it's a lot to kind of manage and process at such a young age. Okay. So some of the other issues that we see is if there's aggressive behaviour, if there's excessive worry or anxiety, if there's a loss of motivation. So often that might look like maybe a 15-year-old Year 10 student that doesn't want to get out of bed, doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to engage in study or work. Moving between houses. So as Claire mentioned, that can come with the parental separation, and that can be really, really hard for young people. And it's a huge adjustment. A new school, so again, another adjustment, another change that can be quite difficult. Study pressure, and study stress. So this time of year, especially when ATAR exams are coming up, there's a lot of stress and worry.
I have actually had, a number of ATAR students, not so much now, but I guess about 3 months ago, coming into counselling because they were really worried about how they were going to go with their exams. And we're in October now, so they're currently kind of in it. So they're having to do it. But the study stress and pressure can actually start fairly early on as well.
So bullying as well is quite a big one. And unfortunately now bullying looks a lot differently than what it looked maybe 20, 30 years ago. The bullying is quite persistent. It doesn't stop when you leave school at the end of the day. It can continue into your home life, into your personal life, and I guess can be done on a number of different platforms with the internet and all the social media that exists now. So it's really hard to kind of get away from. It's quite debilitating.
Almost 24 hours a day, if they were to stay online all the time. And some kids do have access to their phones or computers. It's difficult to disengage from the bullying behaviour and to take a step away from it all. So, it can be easy as well to bully, I think, from an online platform, because you're not doing it face to face. It's not as confrontational perhaps for the bully. There's a lot of information out there about cybersecurity and online bullying as well. That's important that as kind of carers and parents and those who care about young people, it's important to kind of keep up with that. Because I do know as well, when it comes to kind of online work, that I didn't grow up with the internet. So talking to the young people who come into my service, they often are telling me what's new. So I need to kind of keep on it as well.
And loss of a family member as well. I guess some kind of loss that they've experienced. Or just wanting to know that the young person is doing okay. So some parents will notice, I guess, a few kind of warning signs or signs that the child might not be coping, and just want them to be able to sit down in an open, non-judgmental space to make sure they're doing okay, and I guess maybe help support them with some additional kind of strategies and coping mechanisms for the future.
And I know with my own children, they don't want to talk to me. They're like, Mum's a counsellor, but I don't want to talk to her. And so I'd like to have them to have the space, someone to talk to if they want to, just to check in.
Exactly.
They know that they can.
That's right.
If they want. And I think a lot of parents feel the same way as well. So the way I guess we might interact with them is, I guess just briefly, we can let you know that we use a real play-based approach, often using games, don't we?
Yes. Yeah. So these are, I guess, some of the kind of tools that we use. So just kind of fun little toys like this. We have a number of
Sensory
toys just to kind of self-soothe, to make the children and young people feel relaxed in the counselling setting.
It's not for everyone. It's a bit squishy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's great for some.
Yeah.
I also let the kids know that I am the UNO champion of the world, and I challenge them to beat me. And that can give, whilst we're playing, we can talk at the same time.
Yeah.
There's also Jenga that we use as well. This is a really great way to, again, do something whilst talking to kids. And it's a little bit tenuous, when you get into the end of Jenga, and it's a bit nerve-wracking, isn't it? We can then tune in and talk about those feelings. How does it feel within your body? Do you want to keep going? What are you worried about? It helps them to develop the language around that as well.
Definitely. And we just have this emoji chart. If you want to just slide that through, Claire, just to hold up and show everyone. So often it's quite difficult for children to verbalise how they're feeling. So this emoji chart just helps them to identify those feelings, and helps them to, I guess, open up in a, child appropriate way and non-threatening kind of way. They use these emojis all the time on social media,
it's their language.
texting, it's their language. And it's, a lot easier to, identify those emotions and to label those as well. And also just for that education around emotions as well. So sometimes they'll pick an emoji and say, I'm not quite sure what this emotion is. And we'll talk a little bit about what that emotion is and how that feels in their body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to send a little link to the videos that we'd like to share with you in the links below. So please go check out what else Molly has to say and the other videos that might be helpful. But for now, we'll continue on about the really important part of now that we know what the warning signs are for young people and children, how can we actually respond to it?
Yes.
So for young children, it's going to be a little bit different to the older children, but also quite the same. We need to tune in. We need to really be present with our children, and we need to offer that kind of physical support and affection. And of course, if our young person says, no, I don't want a hug right now, we don't want to force that on them either. But they may actually need that and not know how to ask for it. So offer it is really important. For the young people in particular, we want to support them in how to name their emotions. So what it is that they're really feeling. Remembering that play is their first language, so they're learning the verbal language. We also want to engage other people caring for a young child to ensure the consistency, the reliability and predictability of their lives, because going back to what we talked about earlier, that is one of the key markers of a healthy childhood, is a young person's ability to predict. So other people caring for your child might be teachers, childcare workers, other family members who are caring for them as well. So for older children, same thing, we're going to tune in. And I guess tuning in, what I mean by that is that we're going to approach them and try to read what they're saying with their body, with their words, go underneath the content of what they're saying to get to what they're feeling. Be present, offer that physical support and affection. But for the older children, we want to support them to find their own solutions. So we're talking about the kind of 13 to 15 onwards. They should be developing, their skills.
And those problem-solving skills.
Yeah,
and helping and
absolutely.
assisting them and supporting them to do that without, kind of taking away their power and control.
Yeah, we don't want to go in as the experts in their life.
Yeah.
We want to go in as their guide.
That's right. Yeah.
We want to take their direction. So if they say, look, I don't want to talk about it right now, that's fine. We can say, look, can I come back later and have a chat about it? Because you also don't want them to kind of get into that trap of avoidance either. So how we respond, it's fairly simple. It's not just one discussion. That's the important thing to take away. We're going to ask them how they're going. We're going to listen to their answer. We're going to refer them if they, prefer not to talk to us, but they say, look, there is a problem. We're going to review with them, how did that go when you went and saw so-and-so? And we're going to follow up. And this follow-up is probably the most important thing. Having one conversation, like I said, doesn't do much. It's having those subsequent conversations. So how did you go with, or is there anything else that came out of it? They're really important for the children to learn from their experiences and develop that strong mental health. If there's one kind of quote you can take away from this is, I see you, I hear you, and I'm here for you. Let's repeat that. I see you and I hear you and I'm here for you. If children can say that that's what they've been given, they're often feeling very secure. And to do that, just offer them some minimal encouragement. So we don't want to really drag, their experience out of them, but we want to say, we're here for you.
And just for the child to know that they're supported and they have that support. It sounds like such a simple thing, but it's so important for young people to know that they have that from their parents.
It's really hard though, as like carers, to not go in stronger.
Yes,
it's difficult to go in softly. But it's an important skill to practice. Right. So rephrasing what they say tells them that you've actually heard them, but it also allows you to check that you've heard them properly.
That's right.
Asking open-ended questions, so not yes/no answers. It makes them have to think about, how they're actually going and how they might describe it. I think every parent of every adolescent would say that all their young person says is good, yep, no, shrug. So being able to perhaps ask questions that aren't yes or no.
And open up the conversation as well. Yeah.
And I guess that's what's called open-ended. Yeah, it opens everything.
Yeah.
Be present. Sometimes just going for a walk and not talking together can feel very supportive. Listening and observing their tone, words, and their body language. So just because they say they're doing okay, their body might be telling you something different. Or just because there's, are avoidant perhaps, yet they're also staying really close to you, you would just might want to explore that difference. Your body's telling me one thing and your words telling another. I want the chance to talk to you about that. Is that okay? So being curious is really important with children and young people. This is their world. It's different to your world. So being curious about, what their experience is like. So I guess, can we have an example, Laura? What would an open-ended question sound like?
I guess maybe being curious about, as you said, something part of their world that maybe you don't know about as a parent. Maybe it's something on social media, maybe it's a social media platform, and I guess asking the child or young person, I can see that you're very interested in this this website or this social media platform. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What is it about this website or this platform that is of interest of you? What do you get out of that? Why is it important to you?
And they might go that you're asking me strange questions here, but they're also going to be probably engaging as well. And this is what it comes down to, that relationship and that engagement and connection.
And it shows that, I guess, the parent cares as well. That curiosity shows that there's a care, there's a consideration, there's an interest.
I see this is important to you and I'd like to walk alongside you.
That's right.
I guess another one, because, parents, we go out to work and the kids go out to school and we all come together at the end of the day. We're tired, we're, grumpy or whatever. Having a deep conversation might not be something anyone's really up for, but a check-in's important. So asking an open-ended question like, what was the most challenging thing you experienced today? Or, if your day was a colour and a shape, how might you describe that? That's, a good conversation opener. And if the young person wants to step in and tell you more, then be available for that. Be really solution focused rather than problem focused. So if they tell you all about their challenge, don't just focus on the challenge and the difficulty, but more around, how what are your options here? How are we going to respond? What do you need to respond differently or to learn from this? Checking your understanding and your assumptions is really important too. So just because it seems a certain way doesn't mean it is. So checking that out also means that you're taking the time. So yeah, it's really important to know for you guys that the way that you respond is vital in children feeling heard and understood, but you're not in this alone.
Yeah. So we're just going to look at, I guess, some of the support that can be provided and some of the support that you can direct and refer your children to. And it is a big job, parenting and caring for a child, a young adult, a teenager, and you don't have to do it on your own. So engaging with a GP, a child health nurse, depending on the child's developmental age, teachers, chaplain at school, school psychologist, school counsellor. Every school has either a school psychologist, a chaplain, or a counsellor available, and that can be a good resource for your child to do. So even, I guess, prompting your child to use those resources at school. Our helplines as well. Kids Helpline is a really good one that a lot of young people find really helpful. Just to talk to someone that they don't even have to see face to face. It's just kind of breaking down that barrier, and I guess reducing kind of that shame as well around talking and opening up about their feelings to someone else that they probably will never meet again in their life or have to see. So, yeah,
It can be really hard to kind of articulate that, can't it? Because to make it real and to say it out loud,
yeah,
you just don't know what's going to happen.
that's right.
So helplines can be a safe space. E-Headspace as well.
Yeah.
So online counselling.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the employment assistance programs, which Claire and I work at. So just to talk a little bit more about the employment assistance program that we offer at Access Wellbeing Services. So all of our workers are highly trained counsellors or registered psychologists. We use child appropriate tools strategies, some of the tools and games that we just showed you previously, and a lot of other kind of strategies and activities in the counselling session to make, I guess, children feel safe and supported, and I guess that we're being child appropriate and it's fun and engaging for them because they have to enjoy it, otherwise they're not going to want to come back and see us. So it really has to be I guess things that they enjoy and I guess child centered and
and age appropriate.
And age appropriate.
The way that you might support a 16-year-old would be different to a 6-year-old.
That's right. Yeah. So we offer after school appointments, we offer evening appointments as well. So there's a lot of flexibility, so we can find a time that works for you and your family. So in saying all of that, we are a short-term service. So just depending on your session allocation as part of your EAP, there'll only be, I guess, the opportunity for the young person to engage short term. And sometimes that's enough for some young children. Sometimes, just a few sessions and just to develop those strategies, just having a safe space to be able to talk and I guess vent about what's going on for them and their experience is enough. If not, we can actually refer children to long-term services too, such as Headspace, YouFocus.
Sometimes it's a really good soft start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where they get that first taste of counselling, what it's like to talk to somebody.
Yes.
And I've even had a lot of adolescents come in saying, I've never done this before. And if they can leave that counselling, those counselling sessions, feeling like they know what it's about now and they're more confident about how to engage, they're more likely to continue getting this support, for the length of their life, because as we know, life's hard and challenging and it's difficult if we think we're all on our own.
Yeah, definitely. So the locations, so offices include Joondalup, Midland, Perth, Gosnells and Bunbury. And we also offer telephone and video counselling. So we did a lot of video counselling during the lockdowns as well. And I actually found for some children, they actually found that a lot easier to engage because they don't find it, I guess, as kind of nerve-wracking, anxiety-provoking as going into an office, having to, I guess, see people at the front, go into a room, and they can actually do it from their own space as well, from their bedroom.
Yeah, and recently I've been counselling a 13-year-old over the phone because that's how they felt most comfortable. So, just like eHeadspace and Kids Helpline, we can also support in that way too.
That's right, yeah. And especially helpful for children that are living in regional areas as well, Okay, so how to go about getting the support from Access Wellbeing Services. So initially we engage with the parents and we hear their hopes and concerns. So the parent would be the first one to, I guess, make contact with us. And I guess it differs depending on the child's age. So for older teenagers and young adults, they might want to attend without the parent. They might want to attend with the parent. That's absolutely fine. So we offer individual child counselling sessions. If the child is under the age of 15, 16, we do require the parent to come for an initial parent session just to hear about kind of what they're concerned about. We offer sibling group counselling, family counselling, and then parent skill building and support as well, which can be really helpful. And it might be that your young person's already engaging in counselling support and you're needing some skills and some strategies to be able to manage with that. And I guess just someone to speak to and someone that's impartial and a safe space to talk about your concerns as a parent, because it can be really hard.
Yeah, it's a really challenging job. And I don't know about you guys, but my kids didn't come with a manual. So I'm figuring it out as I go.
Yeah.
And I've really found counselling and parent skills courses really helpful in being able to, understand how best to respond to my individual child, step out of the role of counsellor and into the role of parent as well. So we're here for you. You're not alone in this either. So please, I guess access the support that's here.
Yeah. And it's a resource that you can use. So I guess making the best use of that. Yeah. Okay, so the steps to engaging children and young people in counselling. So the first step is just giving us a call on the 1300 number. Admin are really helpful and really friendly and supportive and can look at booking you in for a session. They will ask for your children's details, including their date of birth. You'll be sent a child consent form to complete, and that will also ask for the consent of the other parent and their phone number, email address, and any other relevant legal documentation, any family law court matters or protection orders as well. If there's no safety risks and the other parent has received the email to inform them of the child counselling, then they can engage in the counselling, but we do need to let both parents know that the child's engaging if they are under the age of 18.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to if it's safe to do so.
That's right.
So if there's a family violence restraining order protecting the child, we obviously won't inform that parent who's being bound by that order either. So we need to work within the law too. So when you do come, please let our admin know if there is any court documents relevant to your child's care. So we can also, I guess, facilitate what the family court has outlined.
And as I said, if the child is under 16, the parents are required to meet with the counsellor without the child. But even if they're over 16, parents, of course, are most welcome and encouraged to attend the initial session, because all the information, I guess, that we can get, the better that we are equipped to help support the young person in the counselling. And if the child is over 16 or 17, they do have that option to attend without their parent present for the first session.
I think it might be important to note that our reception waiting areas don't necessarily have a creche facility as well. So bringing your child to wait outside whilst you go in and meet with the counsellor may not be, okay.
Yeah.
We do have those after hours appointments, so or during school appointments as well. So they could be, occupied elsewhere.
Yeah. So our service is confidential. So unless there's any immediate concerns for your child's safety or well-being, and I guess some of those concerns could be if they're talking about harming themselves or someone else, that's when we'd need to let the parents know, or a third party, in order to keep them safe. We offer referral pathways as well for ongoing therapy. As I said, this is quite a short-term service in its nature, but as Claire mentioned, it gives a bit of a taste for counselling and can just help them to develop maybe some skills and strategies to help them cope in life, basically. But if ongoing support is needed, we can refer children to places like Headspace, Youth Focus, but we don't provide any diagnosis or reports. So speak to your HR if you're wanting any more information about our service, or give the 1300 number a call and speak to one of our friendly admin staff. And I guess the range of sessions that your organisation provides differs. So speaking to HR about that, or calling the 1300 number as well, and admin can have a look at that and let you know about your entitlements. So yeah, these are some support services that you can access. We spoke a little bit about Kids Helpline. There's places like Headspace that do telephone and face-to-face counselling. There's Beyond Blue, Lifeline as well, which are 24/7 crisis supports and suicide prevention services.
Yeah, amongst others as
Yeah.
well. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. If you would like to provide us some feedback or let us know how we go, please do so. Thank you so much for being present with us today, and we wish you all the best. Take care.
Thank you.